Well, as you can see, I've just started roller painting the van. This is black gloss Rustoleum with a 20% mix of white spirits. It's just getting rolled on at the moment after the van's been completely flattened back. I've just done the back panel and sliding door. I've just got around the door to do there. That just needs masking up. And I'll be doing the front door and the other side. So now I've started now, there's no really turning back or stopping. As I say, it's already 2/3 of the passenger side already done now. This is just the first coat. It's probably going to take a good 5-6 coats until I'm going to be happy with it, because I'll probably be doing 3 or 4 coats, give it a flat back, then another coat or 2, and then final flatting as well. But this is just a quick progress just to show how I'm getting on so far. As I say, the paint's going on quite well so far. It's quite hard to tell with the reflection of the sun, but as you can see, it's already showing a reflection in it, but obviously it's going to be a bit orange peely until it's been flattened back. Like I say, this is nowhere near the finished coating. This is literally the very first coat that's going on, and I've still got all of the back to do and all of the driver's side as well. As you can see, it's all been flattened back, ready to go, so I just need to mix up the next batch of paint, because I've just finished that first batch on these 2 panels. Crack on and see how it's finished for the day. Right, so there's the first coat of the roller paint done. And I say it's going to take probably a good 4 or 5 coats in total. But the first one still come out quite well. You can see some reflections in the paint there. You can see the reflection of myself coming back there okay. So it's not a bad first coat really. As I say, it's still going to need a couple more coats, but as you can see, there's certainly some good reflections coming off it already, considering this is just the very first coat that's just been rolled on, no spray or anything. You can see a good reflection of the workshop that I'm using while I'm spraying the van. So it hasn't come out too badly really. Little runs here and there, but not a lot. I've tried to keep on top of them, and wherever I did see a run forming, I just go straight back over it with the roller just to try and flatten it straight back out again. So as I say, that's the first coat all done. I just need to let this dry now and revisit probably tomorrow. The windscreen's getting fitted tomorrow as well, and then I'll be able to do another coat as well. But yeah, that is the first coat of rolled on Rustoleum onto my VW-T4, and as you can see, it's come out quite well. There's already some nice reflections coming off the paintwork, so by the time this all gets flattened back and sanded back as well, should get a really nice paint job. Right, so that's the first coat of the Rustoleum black gloss applied to my van. Because it was white before, it was awkward to find every single little nick and ding in the bodywork, but now it's all painted black. Obviously all of the imperfections soon start to shine through. And as you can see, I am getting a good reflection in the paintwork, and this hasn't been flattened back yet. This is literally just the first coat roller painted on. But now it's black, I can see little dings in the bodywork, so I've just been sanding them back, and these are going to be getting just little bits of body filler just to put into those, just to get those smoothed out as well. I did do the majority of the bodywork before painting. This was just a couple of areas that weren't really showing up while the van was white. So I'm taking the opportunity, now it's black, while all of the little dings and imperfections are showing up, to get those treated before I continue painting. So this is just the first coat, and it's probably going to have 3 or 4 coats in total. So now is the perfect time just to make sure all the rest of the bodywork's fine before I continue with it. But as you can see, I'm getting a good reflection off the first coat just as it is. So it's not a bad job really. Had a couple of runs here and there, but I've tried to smooth those out as well. But yeah, other than that area where I missed, that's going to be getting painted obviously, but other than that, it's a pretty good job so far. So I'm going to crack on, get some more bodywork filler mixed up, get all this mixed up and applied onto the van, and get it all sanded back, and hopefully get another coat of paint on today. Right, that's all the little dings and dents all filled in with filler. At the moment, this is all still having to cure and dry up before I can start sanding any of that down. So in the meantime, I'm just running around the other side where I did do some previous filler work, but it wasn't 100% flat, and obviously when the black's gone on, it just shows the ripples. So as you can see down this passenger side, along the back, I've just started block sanding this with just a big flat sander, just to get it 100% level and even before it gets the second coat over it. It was looking okay, but it was just a little bit wavy in the reflection, so I figure if I can get it all 100% smooth back, then in theory when the second coat goes on, it should be nice and reflective. So I'm just going to continue sanding the rest of that back down while the rest of the filler work all dries up. Then that'll be okay to sand back as well. That'll be okay to start painting it. So as you can now see, I've now finished all of the filler work. These are just all little bits and bobs that I just couldn't see when the van was white, but obviously they stood straight out when it was painted black. Now, because it was just the first coat, I figured now is the good time to go around and rectify any bits that I did miss. So that's down the driver's side. It's mainly just along the bottom panel, a little bit back there as well. The back doors are good. And then on the passenger side there was a little bit down there near the arch and a little bit on the sliding door. That was minimal really, but I figured while I'm doing the work I might as well do it at the same time. I've also flattened back the area behind where the sliding door slides. That's an area that I'd already done, but after doing the first coat I wasn't quite happy with the reflection, so that's been sanded back and flattened back as well. So hopefully that's going to be a lot smoother now for when the second coat gets applied. So now all of the bodywork's now finally done. I'm just waiting for a couple of daft little bits just to finish setting, just in there where I had a couple of gouges on the original filler work, so I've just gone over the gouges. I'm just waiting for those to fully set, then I can sand those back, then it's okay to give the van a wash down and get the second coat of Rustoleum rolled on. Right, so back at the van, yet another day. Just seem to be spending a few hours a day on it at the moment. Yesterday I did a second coat all the way around the van. Today I've been concentrating on getting all of the door shut areas, anywhere where there's a seal around where the door closes. I didn't do those on the first two coats, so I've just been around those and painted them with a brush. I'm running out of paint now. I've done two coats and all the way around the door shuts. So today I'm just giving the second coat that I did a wet dry over. I've got a massive pack of 1000 grit wet and dry sanding discs, so that should be enough to go over the van a couple of times really. So now I've done two coats on it, I'm giving it a bit of a flat back before I do the third coat once the additional paint arrives. So I've just got a DA polisher there. As I say, it's fully adjustable with the speed, and I'm just running through that with the 1000 grit discs, spraying down anywhere I'm doing with wet water, obviously because it's wet and dry, so you just need to make sure that anywhere where you're working is fully wetted down, otherwise the sandpaper might actually burn through the paint. So as you can see on these panels, it's given up a nice key on them. It's nice and smooth, so when the third coat goes on, that'll go on nice and smoothly. So I've just got the rest of the van to go around. I've done the back panel, I'm just about to finish this sliding door, and I've got the other side of the van to do, and then that'll be pretty much it for the day. Right, so I'm back for another day on the van. The van's now had two full coats of black Rustoleum. After the second coat, I've been all the way around the van with wet and dry on a polisher with 1000 grit paper, so it's all fully flattened back now. So now I'm just about to start on the third coat. Right, so that's coat number 3 now done on the van. I'm going to be leaving this now for another day to dry. I'll be back in another day or two just to do another coat, and then it'll be getting a flat back, a final coat a couple of days after that, and then that'll be it. That'll be 5 coats of Rustoleum on it. So it's still coming out quite nicely at the moment. As you can see, there's some good reflections still coming off the paintwork. This was flattened back after the second coat, so it's gone on pretty smoothly, pretty nicely for this particular coat for the third one. So as I say, I've been all the way around the van as you've just seen, so it's just going to be a case of leaving this to dry now, nipping back in another day or two, another coat, leave that to dry, flat it back, and then final coat. So we're getting there. That's 3 out of 5 coats complete, so over halfway done. Right, so back at the van for another day. It's had 3 coats now. It's been flattened back twice so far. Today it's going to get another 4th coat all the way around it, and tomorrow I'm going to come back, flatten it back, and then the following day I'm going to come back and give it the 5th and final coat. So as you can see, it's looking quite nice now. There's nice shines and reflections just coming off it, and this coat itself hasn't been flattened back. It's going to be painted straight on top of this one, and then it's going to get flattened back for the 5th and final coat tomorrow. So as I say, it's coming along quite nicely. 3 coats so far. I've just mixed up the latest mix of the Rust-oleum paint. I'm just using the small foam rollers. I'm using gloss black combi colour Rust-oleum, generally with around about 15 to 20% white spirit mix. It's all mixed up and it's all ready to go, so I'm just about to start cracking on and apply coat number 4. Right, so I'm back at the van for another day. Yesterday I gave it its 4th coat. I'm classing it 4 as a half coat because I went all the way around the van once, and by the time I'd got all the way around and finished 1 coat, where I'd started, it already started to become a bit touch dry, so then I went around and did another coat as well. So that was more like thickening up the 4th coat rather than applying another coat on top of that. So I'm considering that 4.5 coats rather than 5. So today I've just been out and bought a few packs of 600 and 1200 wet and dry grit paper. I'm going to be going over hand sanding this entire coat of paint down now, ready for the 5th and final coat, which hopefully should be going on tomorrow. So now I'm just going to get some wet and dry paper out and get all the way around the van, hand sanding this time rather than using the machines, and see how it turns out. Right, so that's me pretty much finished for the day again. I've been all the way around it, hand sanding it this time with 600 grit paper. That's allowed me to get rid of any sort of runs that were still hanging on from the previous coats. So it's now completely flat, ready for the last and final coat tomorrow. I'm just going to get it out the garage now and give it a good wash down, but as you can see, all the panels, all the sides, fully sanded down, all with 600 grit, so it's all pretty much good to go now. So I'm just going to get it out the garage, give it a wash over, and I'll be back tomorrow to apply the 5th and final coat, and that'll be pretty much the van done. Right, so I'm back at the van for the final time while it's in the garage. This is going to be getting its final coat of paint all the way around today, and then the paint's going to be left for probably a week or two just for it to fully harden before it gets its final flat back. So it had a full flat back yesterday with 600 grit paper all the way around. So now I'm just going to mix up my final batch. I'm also going to do another coat around the high top as well, because that hasn't had a coat since I did that in the summer. So it's going to get all the way around this time, and I say it's going to have a coat, possibly two. I'll see what it feels like after I've gone all the way around the van for the first coat. If where I've started is starting to get touch dry by the time I've finished, I might whip around, do another one, just because I've got plenty of paint left. And I might as well try and get the coat as thick as possible, just so it's going to give plenty of paint left, just so when it's getting cut back, it's going to be a nice thick amount of paint to be able to go in and around with all of the different grit of polishing pads and stuff like that. So I'm going to get my final batch of Rust-oleum mixed up. I say it's Rust-oleum black gloss with around about 15-20% mix of white spirits. So I'm just going to get the latest batch of that mixed up and crack on and get the final coats applied to the van. Right, so that is the roll of paint on the van completely done now. It's had 5 dry coats and 2 tacky coats, so you could say that's anywhere from 5 to 7 proper coats on top of it. Obviously I've been all the way around and tried to flatten down and smooth down anywhere where there was showing any signs of any sort of runs. Generally when I was doing the panel, I'd go vertically one way, then I'd still go to work the same panel going horizontally, then again vertically again. So generally I was going over panels 3 times before moving on to the next part, just again to try and minimise any sort of runs or anything at all. Now anyone who I've showed the van to so far have said that it's already 10 times better than the rusty white that the van was when I first bought it. Obviously all of the rust issues have all been fully treated and fully repaired now as well. It hasn't been wet sanded. This has just been left. It's been about 3 weeks since I did the last coat now. Now I'm leaving the van and paint on the van to dry up probably for at least another week, maybe 2, just before I start wet sanding it, just because I want to make sure that the paint itself's nice and hard before I start cutting into it with the wet and dry paper. Obviously I don't want to be cutting through any of the paint and getting back down to the white paint that was underneath it. So I'm just going to be leaving this paint for another week or two, so it'll have had at least a month to fully set, fully harden. Then I'll be getting some wet and dry, starting probably with probably 1,000, working up to 1,200, then up to 2,000 grit. I might even go 3,000 as well. It depends what it's starting to look like after I've been around it a couple of times with the 1 and 2,000. So we'll just have to see. But as you can see, the paintwork's looking quite nice. The van looks a hell of a lot better than it did when it was on the rusty white. So as you can see, the paintwork's come out quite well. I'll just go around the van a couple more times just to show you. But as I say, this is not sanded down at all. So I am expecting to get a hell of a lot better finish when I do get a chance to go around it with all of the wet and dry paper. So as I say, this is just black Rustoleum combi colour. 5 dry paints, 5 dry coats, 2 tacky coats on top of those. And as you can see, I've pretty much got all the bodywork pretty much straight now as well. You can barely see any sort of dinks and dents in it, especially compared to what it was, where it almost seemed full. Especially this side panel along in there, that was all dented in, and that's come out nice and smooth and straight again now. Same on the sliding door. I showed the repairs that I was doing on these earlier in the video. And if you do want to see the full bodywork repair video, I've got that on my channel, as well as another video where I've got a windscreen out and a rust repair job doing all the way around the windscreen surround, and then having a brand new windscreen fitted in. So those videos are on my channel, so please feel free to have a look at those, and do subscribe to my channel because there's always going to be more videos coming of the van as it's nearing completion of the conversion. So as I say, subscribe below. There's going to be more videos coming, and do check out the videos that are already on my channel. I've documented pretty much every single job that I've done to this van, conversion wise, everything from insulation, laying new floor, all the way through to installing pull-out beds, Propex heaters, this, that, the other. So as you can see, the entire conversion of this van is documented on my channel. Everything from fitting the seats to the flooring, bedding, sink, smith, everything's documented on there. So as I say, please feel free to subscribe. If you found the video useful, please rate it. And keep an eye on my channel because I will be updating it again when I do get round to doing the wet dry on the van. Trying to get that slightly more glossy, glassy, reflective, shiny finish to it. But as you can see, as things stand at the moment, it's a hell of a lot better than what it was just with the rusty white with all of the dents and scratches in it. So there you go, that is my VW T4 high top, fully colour changed from a rusty white to a combi colour gloss black using Rustoleum paint and a roller brush. So cost wise, I think you're probably talking, I think I went through 2.5, nearly 3 tins of Rustoleum, but that's also because I was doing the high top as well, and the high top does take more paint than the standard tin top. If you're doing the tin top, you could probably get around with about 5 coats using just 2 tins. As I did 2.5 tins. Then with all of the additional sanding paper, sanding blocks, this, that, the other, the body filler, I'm probably running it around about less than £200 for a complete colour change with 5 coats of paint. So in theory, the paint itself should be nice and thick, so when I do go to start cutting it back, I should run minimal risk of cutting through into the paintwork. So I say, do subscribe to my channel. I'll keep it updated when I do get round to doing the wet and dry sanding as well, and hope you found the video useful. Thanks for watching. Cheers.